Lytudiep. Hello dear friends. Today a touching love story was shattered by sacrifices and troubles come with every step. James is a young and talented director. Was admired for his decisiveness and exceptional leadership skills. However, everything changed overnight. A massive corruption case led to his arrest, turning him into the target of public condemnation. People turned their backs on him. The media relentlessly tarnished his name. And the company he had worked so hard to build faced the risk of collapse. In this darkest moment, only one person still believed in him: Tu Diep, the girl who had just fought a deadly illness and was thought to not survive. Despite her own weakness and pride, Tu Diep decided to stand up, not only because of her love for James, but also for her belief in justice. She embarked on a journey to uncover the truth, facing rejection, relentless pride, and challenges that she couldn't foresee. But she never gave up. Can Diep prove James's innocence? Will their love be strong enough to overcome every obstacle life throws at them? Don't miss this thrilling and heartwarming story. Subscribe now to follow inspirational stories about love, sacrifice, and the trials that test us. We will continue to bring you incredible stories you won't want to miss. Together, let's explore more emotional and meaningful journeys in life. The darkness suddenly and ruthlessly enveloped James' life. The young and talented CEO, once admired for his decisiveness and exceptional leadership skills, was now suddenly turned into a scapegoat in the eyes of society. A major corruption case with shocking evidence led to his arrest, leaving his colleagues, friends, and family in disbelief. The news of the accusation spread rapidly, faster than a violent storm, causing the company he had worked so hard to build to face the risk of collapse. Shareholders were bewildered, partners turned their backs, and rumors swirled around James' name. Never in his life had he felt so isolated and betrayed. The public showed no mercy. Everyone criticized, judged, and condemned him without even knowing the truth. The media relentlessly exaggerated and fabricated horrible stories about him, turning someone once respected into a figure deserving of scorn. James had no choice but to remain silent and accept his fate. But in his darkest moment, he suddenly thought of one person who could stand up and defend him. Tu Diep was not an ordinary woman. She had fought a fierce battle with a deadly illness for many years, a disease that doctors had once claimed was incurable. But she, with her strong will and love for life, had overcome it. The pain, the weakness, and the long, lonely nights in the hospital only made her stronger. Dee was the one who had witnessed James' brilliant success, and also the only one who truly understood the real him, beyond the judgmental eyes of the world. When the news about the corruption case broke, Diep had just been discharged from the hospital after a long period of treatment. Her body was still weak, her steps unsteady, but her heart was filled with a strong sense of belief. She did not hesitate, not for a second. Although she knew the challenges ahead, Tu Diep decided to rise and enter the battle to protect James, the man she trusted absolutely. Diep understood that in this world, full of lies and deceit, if she did not speak up, no one else would. James had suffered enough, and she, with all her fragility, was the only one who could bring hope to him. She wasn't just fighting for love, but also for her belief in justice, for the truth that James deserved. But the path she had to take was not easy. Every step was heavy with exhaustion. Each sleepless night was another battle, with the pain in her chest, where memories of illness and weakness rushed back. Dee never allowed herself to fall. Despite her still fragile health, she persisted in searching for evidence, investigating the traces that the culprits behind the case had deliberately concealed. She had to face refusals, cold shakes of the head from higher ups, from those who didn't want to get involved in such troublesome matters. Yet Tu Diep did not give up. She knew that without her, James would never be exonerated. The physical pain couldn't stop her will, because to Diep's heart there was a firm belief: justice must be served and the truth will prevail. While everyone else turned their backs, Tu Diep never gave in. She wasn't just fighting for James, but for herself as well, because she knew that if she gave up, she would never have the chance to heal the wounds of those she loved. Each day she grew stronger, and the pain became a source of motivation to continue her fight. When the whole world turned its back on James, Tu Diep chose a difficult path. Not because she was fearless, but because she understood that if she didn't stand up for him, no one else would. She had just barely crossed the fragile boundary between life and death. Her body still weak and her spirit not fully recovered. But in her heart, a resilient fire burned that would never fade. Tu Diep knew that life was not only for the strong, but for those who dared to face pain, suffering and fear to protect what they believed in. She clearly remembered the days lying in the hospital bed, when each wave of pain tortured her body and made her want to give up. But every time the pain came, she reminded herself that if she could conquer it, nothing in the world could bring her down. And now, on this arduous journey, Tu Diep knew her mission was not just to survive, but to protect James, the man she trusted absolutely. The one who was far from the villain society painted him to be. Tu Diep began her journey to find the truth, without asking anyone to walk beside her, without seeking outside help. She sought out documents on her own, relentlessly chasing every clue. She combed through every article, analyzed every detail, no matter how trivial that might relate to the case. What seemed like insignificant information became an important piece of the puzzle that she was trying to piece together. Each day she woke up early, working tirelessly until late at night. The long nights sitting surrounded by chaotic papers were often interrupted by sharp pain in her chest. But Tu Diep never faltered. Time and again she had to face rejection. Cold shakes of the head from superiors and colleagues, who didn't want to get involved in a complicated and risky situation. She heard warnings and advice to give up, to not pursue such a dangerous and troublesome cause. But Tu Diep didn't list. She knew that without her, James would never be exonerated. No one else had the courage to face the dark forces behind the case. With every rejection, every obstacle, Tu Diep's determination grew stronger. She could feel the pushback from those around her, but it only fueled her resolve to continue. Dee was no longer the fragile girl of the past, someone who feared disdainful stares from others. She had faced death, risen from suffering, and now nothing could intimidate her. Every fall made her rise stronger. Tu Diep understood that her life was no longer her own. It was a fight to restore justice for James, for everything he truly deserved. Her survival was no longer about herself. It was about fulfilling a sacred mission. Every step she took, though exhausted and painful, was focused on that goal. She could feel her body wearing down, but that very exhaustion became her driving force. If she didn't do this, if she didn't find the truth, no one else would. The sleepless nights with the ticking of the clock, the moments when she had to crawl into dark corners to search for evidence, all of this made Tu Diep feel like she was living in a different world. A world full of lies, full of shadows, where justice seemed forgotten. But in her heart nothing was impossible. She knew that no matter how many obstacles, no matter how difficult the journey, if she didn't speak out, if she didn't fight, she wouldn't be able to live with a clear conscience. And more importantly, James, the one she loved and trusted, would never be free from the false accusations. Tu Diep had become a woman who was no longer afraid, no longer doubted herself. Each step she took the week was fueled by an unshakable belief. She knew that her life had been set on a different course, and she would never give up this fight. Finally, through extraordinary effort, Tu Diep uncovered the true culprit, the one who had set the trap for James and manipulated the entire company. With the truth exposed, James was released on a cloudy afternoon, but for him it was the most brilliant day of his life. As he stood before the prison gates, he saw Diep, thinner, paler, but with eyes still bright and resolute, just as they had always been. Without a word, he walked toward her and embraced her tightly. Right there in front of everyone, James knelt down, took out a small ring that he had carried with him all this time, and proposed to the woman who had not only saved him, but also conquered her own fate. This was not a fairy tale ending, but one meant for truly courageous people. Because sometimes true love doesn't need to be dazzling. It only requires enough resilience to endure illness, injustice, and loneliness. Tu Diep's tireless efforts had finally paid off. Despite the sleepless nights, the weakness of her still recovering body, Her determination remained unshakable. She found the true mastermind behind the entire plot. The one who had deceived James and destroyed the company he had painstakingly built. When the real culprit was exposed, everything changed. James, once a prisoner of false accusations, was now free, and the truth came to light. People began to see James for what he really was, a victim in a cruel power play. The villain the world had believed him to be. On that cloudy afternoon, when James was released from prison, he felt as if the weight of the world had been lifted from his shoulders. It wasn't just his freedom that made it the happiest day of his life. It was the sight of Diep standing there, the woman who had believed in him when no one else did. Though she was thinner, freelier, her eyes still shone with the same unwavering strength he had always known. She had been through so much, yet her spirit remained unbroken. Diep was there for him, not only as the woman who loved him, but as the person who had fought tirelessly to restore his honor. James couldn't hold back. Without a word, he walked over to her and embraced her. In the presence of everyone, he knelt down and pulled out a small ring he had always kept with him. It wasn't just a ring, it was a symbol of the love, the loyalty, and the unspoken bond they shared. He proposed to Diep, the woman who had saved him, and also triumphed over her own suffering. He knew in that moment that no one else could ever understand him the way she did, and no one else deserved to be by his side as she did. This was not the ending of a fairy tale, where everything is flawless and perfect. It was the ending of a story of true courage. A story where love didn't come from perfection, but from resilience. Because sometimes, true love doesn't need to shine brightly. It only needs enough strength to survive through illness, injustice, and loneliness. James and Tu Diep's love was not a glamorous story, filled with grand gestures. It was a love built from determination, trust, and the dark times they had endured together. It wasn't a love written in the stars, but a love forged in the depths of hardship and sacrifice. In the face of the worst, Diep had stood by him, had fought for him, and in doing so, she had also found herself. Perhaps true happiness doesn't come from the perfect things we wish for, but from the ability to endure and rise after falling. It comes from standing tall in the face of hardship, loving selflessly, and never giving up. James and Tu Diep had faced everything the world threw at them, and against all odds, they found their happiness, not in the material world, but in the love they shared, and in their shared resilience. Their happiness was not just the result of overcoming a great battle. It was proof of one simple truth: sometimes the best things in life don't come easily. But if we are patient, courageous, and never give up, happiness will eventually find its way back to us. This story is a powerful testament to the strength of love, resilience, and the pursuit of justice. James, a talented and successful CEO, suddenly finds himself caught in a web of false accusations, and his world crumbles as the public turns against him. However, it is Tu Diep, a woman who has already battled life-threatening illness, who refuses to let him face this alone. Her determination to uncover the truth, despite her own physical weakness, is nothing short of inspiring. What stands out the most in this story is the theme of unconditional love and unwavering belief in one another, even when everything seems hopeless. Tu Diep's courage to stand up for James, even at the cost of her own health and safety, is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of love come in the form of selflessness and sacrifice. The story is not just about overcoming external obstacles, but also about conquering inner fears and doubts. It shows that even when faced with adversity, we can find strength in each other and in our own convictio. It's a story that makes us reflect on the power of love, justice, and standing up for what is right, no matter the odds. It is a story about the power of love and the troubles we encounter in everyday life. Thank you for reading this story.